Have you ever looked at a dirty old penny and thought it was completely worthless? What if I told you that some of the ugliest, most forgotten coins in America are now worth hundreds, thousands, and in some cases even life-changing amounts of money? Today we're counting down some of the most valuable old wheat pennies that many people ignore every single day. These coins have been dragged through mud, buried in dusty change jars, hidden in old toolboxes, and passed from hand to hand for over 70 years. They look like trash, but expert coin dealers are paying serious money for the right examples. Some of these coins are officially out of circulation, some are found in unbelievable conditions, and a few have shocked collectors with auction prices that seem impossible for a 1-cent coin. So before you spend another penny, watch this video all the way to the end because I'm showing you exactly what to look for. One tiny detail could turn your loose change into serious cash. We'll reveal coins that collectors are fighting over, coins whose values have gone vertical, and coins that might still be hiding in pocket change, old piggy banks, and dusty coin collections across America, including examples that sold for hundreds and even thousands of dollars. The next coin you see could look old, worn out, damaged, and completely worthless, but don't be fooled. What you're about to discover might change the way you look at pennies forever. At number 1, we have the 1944 Wheat Penny. Now, if you have ever seen one of these coins before, chances are you didn't think much about it. After all, it's just a 1-cent coin. It looks old, worn out, and in many cases it has been dragged through mud, buried in dusty change piles, and forgotten in jars for decades. But what if I told you that some 1944 wheat pennies are worth far more than their face value? Not a few dollars. We are talking hundreds. We are talking thousands. And in certain rare cases, collectors and expert dealers have paid truly shocking amounts of money for the right example. The year 1944 was a fascinating time in American history. The United States government was deeply involved in World War II, and every important metal was being carefully managed. During those years, the government was constantly making decisions about how metals would be used for military equipment and supplies. Because of those decisions, certain coins from this era became incredibly interesting to collectors decades later. Today, the 1944 wheat penny remains one of the most searched and most collected pennies in America. Now here's where things start getting exciting. Most people see a 1944 wheat penny and immediately assume it is common. And yes, millions were produced. But coin collecting is not simply about how many were made. It's about condition, rarity, mint marks, errors, and survival rates. That's where ordinary-looking pennies can suddenly become extraordinary treasures. A coin that spent 80 years in circulation may be worth only a small amount, while another coin from the same year could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Imagine finding a penny in a dusty old coffee can sitting in a garage. Maybe it came from your grandfather's collection. Maybe it was hiding in an old toolbox. Maybe it came from a forgotten coin jar that nobody has touched in decades. Most people would spend it without a second thought. But collectors know that the 1944 wheat penny deserves a closer look. Sometimes the difference between an ordinary coin and a valuable one can be a tiny detail that most people never notice. One of the first things collectors look for is the mint mark. A small letter under the date can make a huge difference. The Philadelphia Mint produced coins without a mint mark, while Denver used the letter D and San Francisco used the letter S. These small letters may not seem important, but collectors carefully examine them because certain varieties are more desirable than others. The right mint mark combined with strong condition can send values much higher than most people expect. Now let's talk about condition. This is where things get really interesting. Many 1944 wheat pennies look terrible today. They have scratches, stains, discoloration, and decades of wear. Some have been sitting in the dirt. Some have been exposed to moisture. Some have even been recovered from lakes, rivers, and abandoned properties. Yet despite all that abuse, collectors still search through thousands of coins hoping to find the right one. A coin that appears ugly and forgotten can still be worth money. That's one of the most surprising things about coin collecting. Many people think only perfect coins have value. That's simply not true. Even heavily circulated examples can attract attention from collectors who need that specific date or mint mark for their collections. That's why it is always worth checking old wheat pennies before tossing them aside. But when we move into higher grades, the story becomes even more dramatic. Mint state examples of the 1944 wheat penny are in a completely different league. These coins escaped decades of circulation and somehow survived with beautiful surfaces and sharp details. When collectors see an untouched example that still displays original mint luster, competition can become intense. Prices often rise quickly as bidders fight for the opportunity to own a superior specimen. This is where auction records begin to shock people. Certain high-grade 1944 wheat pennies have sold for amounts that most non-collectors would never believe. Imagine paying hundreds or even thousands of dollars for a coin that originally represented just 1 cent. Yet that's exactly what happens when rarity meets demand. The better the condition, the stronger the competition becomes. And when multiple collectors want the same coin, prices can go vertical in a hurry. Now here's the detail that really gets collectors excited. Some extremely rare 1944 pennies were accidentally struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943. Remember, 1943 pennies were made from steel due to wartime metal conservation efforts. The following year, pennies returned to a copper-based composition. But a tiny number of steel blanks apparently remained in the production process. The result was one of the most famous errors in American coin collecting. If you discover a genuine 1944 steel penny, you could be looking at a coin worth an astonishing amount of money. These coins are among the rarest and most desirable wheat penny errors ever produced. Collectors dream about finding one. Dealers carefully inspect every 1944 penny they encounter, hoping for that impossible discovery. Most people will never find one, but the possibility keeps the hunt alive. This is why experts always recommend checking every old wheat penny carefully. The coin sitting in your drawer today might look completely ordinary. It might appear dirty, worn, and worthless. It may have spent decades hiding among loose change. Yet one small detail could transform it from a common coin into a collector's prize. That's exactly why so many people continue searching through old coin collections year after year. Another fascinating aspect of the 1944 wheat penny is its connection to American history. Every one of these coins was produced while the nation was fighting a global war. These pennies circulated through stores, factories, farms, and military communities. They passed through countless hands and witnessed a remarkable period in the country's history. Holding one today is like holding a small piece of that era. And now we move to another wheat penny that many people overlook every single day, the 1953 wheat penny. At first glance, this coin doesn't seem special at all. It looks like just another old penny that has spent decades bouncing around in cash registers, piggy banks, and dusty coin jars. Many examples have been dragged through mud, scratched by years of circulation, and forgotten in collections for generations. But before you toss one aside, I need you to stop. Because some 1953 wheat pennies have surprised collectors with values that are far beyond what most people imagine possible for a 1-cent coin. The 1953 wheat penny was produced during a fascinating period of American history. The United States was entering a new era, and millions of these pennies were released into circulation. People spent them without thinking twice. They bought newspapers, candy, and everyday necessities with them. Nobody expected that decades later, collectors would be searching through mountains of old change hoping to find exceptional examples. Yet that's exactly what's happening today. One reason this coin attracts so much attention is because it belongs to the famous Wheat Penny series. Collectors love these coins because they represent a classic chapter of American coinage. Even people who know very little about coins often recognize the iconic wheat ears on the reverse. That design has become a symbol of old American money, and many collectors actively hunt for every date and mint mark in the series. Now here's where things start getting interesting. Millions of 1953 wheat pennies were produced, but not all surviving examples are equal. Most coins were heavily circulated and suffered decades of wear. They were dropped, scratched, bent, and exposed to harsh environments. Some spent years buried in drawers. Others were recovered from old barns, abandoned properties, and dusty storage boxes. Yet despite their rough appearance, collectors continue examining them one by one because rare surprises can still be hiding among them. The first thing you should check is the mint mark. A tiny letter below the date can make a significant difference. The Philadelphia Mint produced coins with no mint mark, while Denver used a D and San Francisco used an S. Experienced collectors know that mint marks matter. They help determine how many coins were produced and how desirable certain examples may be today. That tiny letter could be the difference between an ordinary coin and a sought-after collectible. Condition is another major factor. Most 1953 wheat pennies have seen decades of circulation. They often appear dull, worn, and damaged. To the average person, they may look worthless. But collectors see things differently. They carefully examine every detail, searching for strong lettering, sharp wheat stalks, and original surfaces. Even coins that appear unattractive can still carry value depending on their rarity and collector demand. Now let's talk about mint state examples. These are the coins that never experienced significant circulation. Imagine a 1953 wheat penny that somehow escaped years of wear and still retains much of its original brilliance. These untouched examples are the coins that collectors dream about finding. When a beautiful mint state specimen appears on the market, competition can become intense, and values can climb much higher than expected. This is where auction records begin to tell an incredible story. Certain high-grade 1953 wheat pennies have sold for hundreds and even thousands of dollars. Think about that for a moment. A coin originally worth 1 cent can suddenly become worth enough money to shock the average person. That's the power of rarity, condition, and collector demand working together. When the finest examples appear, serious buyers are often willing to pay serious money. But condition isn't the only thing that matters. Collectors are also obsessed with error coins. Throughout the coin production process, mistakes occasionally occur. These mistakes can create coins that are dramatically different from normal examples. Error coins often attract enormous attention because they are unique and much harder to find than standard issues. A rare error on a 1953 wheat penny could make it significantly more valuable than an ordinary example. Imagine finding a 1953 wheat penny hiding in an old change jar. It looks dirty. It looks worn. Maybe it even appears damaged. Most people would never take a second look. But experienced collectors know better. They understand that hidden value often disguises itself inside ordinary-looking coins. That's why experts constantly search through pocket change, estate sales, and inherited collections. They know that incredible discoveries still happen. Some collectors spend years hunting for top-quality wheat pennies. They search through thousands of coins hoping to find that one extraordinary example. The excitement comes from the possibility that a forgotten coin could suddenly reveal itself as a valuable treasure. Every dusty coin pile holds potential. Every old collection deserves a closer inspection. That's what makes coin hunting so addictive for many enthusiasts. Another fascinating aspect of the 1953 wheat penny is how many people still own them without realizing it. Across America, these coins remain hidden in old jars, family collections, and storage boxes. They have survived more than 70 years, quietly waiting to be rediscovered. Some owners know they have them. Others have completely forgotten. Yet collectors continue searching because they understand that valuable coins often remain hidden in plain sight. Over the years, demand for classic wheat pennies has remained strong. New collectors enter the hobby every year, creating continued interest in historic coins like the 1953 wheat penny. As demand grows and top-quality examples become harder to find, prices can move upward. That's one reason many collectors pay close attention to older Lincoln cents. They represent an important part of American numismatic history. This is why you should never judge a coin solely by its appearance. The ugliest coin in a pile could be the one worth investigating. A penny that appears worthless may actually be the coin collectors are fighting over. It may have spent decades in circulation. It may have been dragged through mud and exposed to the elements for 70 years. Yet hidden beneath that worn appearance could be significant collector value.